I tracked my husband to an apartment I didn't know about, expecting to catch him cheating. But when a pregnant woman opened the door, I realized he wasn't just having an affair. He was living a double life for 3 years. I went home to pack his bags, but then I found the life insurance policy he took out on me without my signature, and realized the accidents I'd been having weren't accidents at all. He wasn't planning a divorce. He was planning a funeral. Here is how I sent him to prison for 25 years. Before we dive into the story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a part. And let me know in the comments below. Have you ever stayed in a relationship hoping the other person would change? Let's get started. My hand shook so violently that my car keys jangled like wind chimes against the steering wheel. I sat in the parking lot for 5 minutes, just breathing, staring up at the 3rd-floor window of the brick apartment complex. Apartment 4B. The address I wasn't supposed to know. The address that had appeared on the credit card statement I wasn't supposed to see. A recurring charge for utilities on a card Trevor claimed he rarely used. I had rehearsed what I would say 100 times during the 20-minute drive here. I would be dignified. I would look her in the eye. I would ask her why. I would make her see me as a real person, a human being, not just an obstacle standing between her and my husband. I wanted to be the bigger person, the rational wife who just wanted answers. But as I walked up the 3 flights of stairs, the smell of stale carpet and old cooking oil filling my nose, that rationality began to fracture. When I finally stood outside the door, the numbers brass and gleaming under the harsh hallway lights, I almost turned back. But I didn't. I knocked. When Candace Peterson opened that door, wearing a green cotton dress that stretched tight over her swollen belly, every prepared word died in my throat. The air left my lungs in a rush. "You must be Simone," she said. Her voice wasn't fearful or mocking. It was tired, flat, resignation painted across her face. "I wondered when you'd show up." I stared at her stomach, unable to process the geometry of it. It wasn't a small bump. It was a mountain. 6 months, I whispered, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. "Trevor. He promised me it was only an office fling. 6 months ago. He said it meant nothing. A mistake he would fix." Candace let out a sharp, dry laugh and stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter. "You might as well come inside. We need to talk. And honey, this isn't 6 months. I'm 7 months along. I shouldn't have entered." Every instinct screamed at me to run, to preserve the last shreds of my ignorance. But my legs carried me forward into her small studio apartment. The space smelled aggressively of vanilla candles and fresh laundry, trying to mask the scent of the old building. It was neat, organized, painfully normal. There were throw pillows I recognized from a catalog I kept on my coffee table. "Sit down," Candace said, pointing to a blue velvet couch. She lowered herself heavily into a chair across from me, one hand resting protectively on her belly. "I'm guessing Trevor told you this started recently?" I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. "It's been 3 years, Simone. 3 years." She said it matter-of-factly, like she was reading a grocery list or giving directions. The room spun. The walls seemed to flex inward. 3 years. I choked out. "That's not possible. We were happy. We were trying for a baby." "He told me you two were having problems," she continued, ignoring my protest. "That you worked all the time. That you barely noticed him. That he was going to leave you but needed to wait for the right time. First it was the holidays, then it was your mother's health, then it was finances." 3 years. While I had been working extra shifts to save for the house renovation Trevor wanted. While I had been planning our 5th anniversary trip to Cabo. While I had been seeing fertility specialists, injecting myself with hormones, crying in the bathroom when the tests came back negative because he said he was so ready to be a father. "That's not true," I heard myself say, though the conviction was draining out of me. "He spent his free time with me. We were fine." "Were you?" Candace's eyes hardened. Because he spent 3 nights a week here. Weekends when you thought he was showing properties? He was here. Holidays when he said he had to work? He was here, Simone. With me. My stomach turned violently. I thought about all those late nights. All those missed dinners where I ate alone, telling myself he was working hard for our future. All those times he came home smelling like unfamiliar soap and blamed it on showing houses that had just been cleaned. I had been so stupid. So willingly blind. Why are you telling me this? I asked, tears finally spilling over. Why now? Because I'm done waiting. Candace shifted, wincing as the baby kicked. He promised me he'd leave you 6 months ago when I told him about the baby. He said he just needed time to figure out the finances to break it to you gently. But he keeps making excuses, and I'm tired of being the secret. I'm tired of being the other woman when I'm about to be a mother. So you want me to what? Leave him so you can have him? I want you to know the truth, she said. That this wasn't some brief mistake. That he chose me over and over for 3 years. That he's having a baby with me. That your marriage has been over for a long time. Simone. You just didn't know it. I stood up, my legs unsteady like a sailor on dry land. You're lying. You have to be. Check his phone records, she challenged. Check the credit card statements for the Hotel Azure on 3rd Street. We went there every Tuesday for 2 years until he bought this apartment. Check his email. The password is your wedding anniversary. How's that for irony? I walked toward the door, my vision blurring. He's not going to choose you, I said, my voice hollow, trying to inflict some of the pain I was feeling back onto her. Men like Trevor don't leave. They just keep lying to everyone. Maybe you're right, Candace said softly as I opened the door. But at least now you know what you're fighting for. A man who's been lying to your face for 3 years. A man who's about to be a father to another woman's child. Is that really worth keeping? I didn't answer. I walked out of that apartment and down the stairs, each step feeling like I was moving through waist-deep water. My car sat under a flickering streetlight. I got in, locked the doors and screamed. It wasn't a scream of sadness. It was a primal release of shock. I pulled out my phone and opened our shared credit card account app. My fingers moved automatically, scrolling back through months of charges. There it was. Hotel Azure. Every Tuesday. Hundreds of dollars. Then, the charges stopped right around the time the utilities for apartment 4B started. Charges at a baby store I'd never been to. Charges at restaurants I'd never eaten at. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I wasn't going to cry anymore. The sadness was evaporating, replaced by something hotter, sharper. I started the car and drove home through the empty streets, my mind racing. Every moment of my marriage had been built on deception. Trevor wasn't the man I thought I married. He was a stranger who happened to share my last name and my bed. I pulled into our driveway, the tires crunching on the gravel in a sound that used to signal safety and home. Now, it just sounded like a trap snapping shut. Trevor's car wasn't there. He was probably still at Candace's, doing damage control, trying to spin a new web of lies now that she had blown his cover. I walked into our house. Into the life we built together. The photos on the walls looked different now. The picture of us in Hawaii? He was probably texting her from the beach. The shot of us at his sister's wedding? He was probably wishing he was with her. Every smile felt fake. Every happy memory felt poisoned, rotting from the inside out. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at my wedding ring. The diamond caught the overhead light, sparkling with a brilliance that felt like it was mocking me. Forever, he had said when he put it on my finger. You and me against the world. I should have felt devastated. I should have been sobbing, falling apart, questioning my self-worth. But instead, I felt something else rising inside me. Anger. Cold, clear, focused anger. It started in my chest and spread to my fingertips. Trevor thought he could have everything. A wife at home to maintain his image, a girlfriend and baby on the side to feed his ego. Money, respect, a good reputation. He thought he was smart enough to juggle it all. He thought I was too naive, too busy, or too trusting to ever find out. He was wrong. I pulled out my laptop and opened it with a snap. I didn't just look. I excavated. I started taking screenshots of everything. Bank statements, credit card charges, phone records. I accessed his email using our anniversary date. Candace was right. That son of a bitch used our wedding date to hide his mistress. I found emails confirming hotel bookings, gifts, even a lease agreement for the apartment. I sent them all to myself, backed them up on a cloud drive, and printed physical copies. By the time Trevor's headlights swept across the front window 2 hours later, I had filled an entire folder with proof of his double life. I had also contacted 3 top divorce attorneys via email and transferred half our savings into a new account in my name only. I had made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight for a marriage that had been dead for 3 years while I was the only one who didn't know it. I was going to burn his life to the ground. When Trevor opened the front door, whistling a tune, I was waiting for him at the kitchen table. The folder of evidence sat in front of me. My wedding ring sat on top of it. "Hey babe," he said, hanging up his coat, not even looking at me. "Sorry I'm late. Had a difficult client who couldn't make up their mind about a closing." "I went to see Candace tonight," I said. The whistling stopped. He froze. His back was to me, but I saw his shoulders tense, rising up toward his ears. Slowly, he turned around. His face, usually so composed and handsome, had gone pale. The mask slipped. "Simone. I can explain. 3 years. Trevor. She told me 3 years." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "She's lying. She's crazy. You can't believe a word she says." "I believe the credit card statements," I said, tapping the folder. "Hotel Azure. Every Tuesday for 2 years. Then it stopped when she moved into her apartment. The one you're paying for with our money." I stood up, keeping my voice steady and ice-cold. "The baby isn't 6 months, it's 7. You've been planning a life with her while lying to my face every single day." "Let me explain," he pleaded, stepping toward me with his hands raised, palms out, like I was a frightened animal he needed to calm. "It's not what you think." "What I think," I cut him off, my voice like a lash, "is that you're a liar. What I think is that our marriage has been a joke for 3 years. What I think is that you thought I was stupid enough to never find out." "Babe, please." His voice cracked, tears welling in his eyes. "It was a good performance. I love you. I made mistakes, but I love you. We can fix this." "No, Trevor. We can't. Because there's no we to fix. There hasn't been a we for 3 years." I picked up my phone and my car keys. I left the folder on the table, left the ring sitting on top of the evidence of his betrayal, and walked past him toward the door. "Where are you going?" he asked, panic finally entering his voice as he realized his charm wasn't working. "Anywhere but here," I said. "And when I come back tomorrow, you'd better be gone." I walked out into the night air, got back in my car, and drove to Natalie's house. Only when I was safely inside my best friend's guest room, the door locked, did I finally let the anger subside enough for the grief to break through. I cried for the life I thought I had. I cried for the 3 years I could never get back. But even through the tears, that cold anger still burned. The next morning, I woke up in Natalie's guest room with sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. For 3 blissful seconds, I forgot everything. Then it all came crashing back. Trevor. Candace. The baby. Natalie knocked softly. "You awake?" "I made coffee." "Come in," I croaked. She entered, dressed in her power suit, ready for court. Natalie was a corporate shark, and I needed a shark. "How are you feeling?" "Angry," I said honestly. Good. Anger is fuel. Grief is just a flat tire. She handed me a mug. I've already compiled a list of the best divorce attorneys. But first, we need strategy. You do not tip your hand yet. Don't file today. Don't confront him again until we have everything. He'll try to gaslight you. He'll wait to see what you do. We need to use that time. After Natalie left, I sat down with my laptop and started digging deeper. I had access to all our accounts. Trevor had no idea how organized I was. I started with bank statements going back 5 years. The pattern was obvious once I knew what to look for. Small withdrawals. Cash advances. Transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. But then I found something strange. In the bottom drawer of an old digital file cabinet I kept for tax purposes, I found a burner phone number associated with a secondary verification email Trevor used. I tracked the backups. Hundreds of messages between Trevor and Candace. But there was more. Messages with someone named Rachel Stone, Trevor's business partner. They weren't romantic. They were cryptic. Did you move the assets? The shell company is set up. Invoice 404 is processed. I read through them carefully, my blood running cold. Hidden in business jargon was evidence that Trevor and Candace had been moving company money into private accounts. Fake clients. Inflated commissions. Money laundering. Trevor wasn't just a cheater. He was a criminal. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as the realization set in. This wasn't just about alimony or dividing the china anymore. This was fraud. Embezzlement. This could send him to prison. I called Natalie immediately. You need to see this, I said, my voice trembling. I'm in court until 4. Can it wait? Trevor's been stealing from his company. I have proof. Text messages, fake invoices, shell accounts. Silence stretched on the other end. Don't touch anything else, Natalie said, her voice dropping an octave, shifting into serious legal mode. Don't take anything from the house yet. Photograph everything exactly where it is. Then leave. If this is what I think it is, we need to bring in the police. The police? Natalie, I just wanted a divorce. If he's committed fraud, you could be liable too if your name is on any of those joint accounts. Check your personal credit report right now. My stomach dropped. I hung up and pulled up my credit report. There it was. A line of red flags. Loans I never applied for. Credit cards I never opened. All in my name, all maxed out. He used my identity, I whispered to the empty room. He stole my name. I drove to our house while Trevor was at work. I knew his schedule. Tuesday afternoons he supposedly showed properties. Now I knew he was likely panicking. Maybe meeting with Candace. The house felt like a museum of a life that never existed. I went straight to Trevor's home office, a room I rarely entered because he claimed he needed his private workspace. I started with his desk. I photographed everything. In the bottom drawer, under a stack of Architectural Digest magazines, I found the physical burner phone. I turned it on. It wasn't password protected. Arrogant to the end. I screenshotted every damning text message and emailed them to myself. I had to get him out. I couldn't live with a criminal. I spent the afternoon packing his things. Not neatly. I threw his expensive suits into garbage bags. I tossed his shoes into boxes. I dragged everything to the front porch. Then, I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. I waited. He came home at 7 p.m. I heard his key fail in the lock. I heard him curse, jiggle the handle, and then pound on the door. I opened it and stood blocking the entrance, my arms crossed. Simone, thank God, he said, looking haggard. I've been so worried. Why are the locks changed? Your things are on the porch, I said calmly. You need to leave. What? No. This is my house too. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. My name is on the deed. Yours isn't. I bought this house before we got married. You've just been living in it. His face flushed a deep, ugly red. You can't be serious. Over an affair? Are you insane? People work through this. Couples survive this. A mistake. I repeated, savoring the word. You call a 3-year affair, a secret child, and identity theft a mistake? He froze. Identity theft? I saw the credit report. Trevor. I saw the loans in my name. The divorce papers will be served tomorrow. And Jerome Collins, my lawyer, is looking forward to destroying you in court. You hired Collins? Trevor whispered. You can't afford him. I can when I have evidence of everything you've done. Now get off my property. He tried to push past me. I need to get into my office. I have files. I have the files now, I said. And the police will have them shortly. That stopped him dead. The color drained from his face completely. You didn't call the police. Leave. Now. He stared at me, his eyes searching for the submissive wife he thought he knew. He didn't find her. He grabbed the garbage bags of clothes, threw them into his car, and peeled out of the driveway. I locked the door and leaned against it, shaking. I was safe, but I wasn't done. I poured a glass of wine and went back into his office. I wanted to make sure I hadn't missed anything before I turned it all over to Detective Mitchell the next day. I moved the bookshelf to check for any fallen papers. That's when I saw it. A wall safe, hidden behind the heavy oak cabinet. I'd never known it existed. I tried our anniversary. Nothing. I tried his birthday. Nothing. On a whim, sick with intuition, I tried Candace's birthday. Click. The door swung open. Inside were stacks of documents. Business contracts, offshore bank account numbers, and in the very back, a thick envelope. I opened it. It was a life insurance policy. On me. For $500,000. Taken out 6 months ago. My blood ran cold. I sat on the floor, the policy in my shaking hands. $500,000, payable to Trevor upon my death. I looked at the signature line. It was my name, but it wasn't my handwriting. He had been planning something. This wasn't just about money anymore. I sat on the floor of the office for what felt like hours, staring at the forged signature on the life insurance policy. The ink looked so official, so final. Beneficiary. Trevor Harper. I grabbed my phone and called the number Natalie had given me for Detective Brandon Mitchell. Mrs. Harper? Is everything okay? I found something, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Something bad. I need you to come to my house right now. Brandon arrived 30 minutes later with another detective, a sharp-eyed woman named Sarah Kim. They didn't treat me like a hysterical housewife. They treated me like a witness at a crime scene. They photographed the safe, the contents, the position of the bookshelf. Life insurance fraud, Sarah said, studying the policy under the desk lamp. This is serious. Combined with the identity theft and embezzlement, we're looking at 15 to 20 years if convicted. But why? I asked, wrapping my cardigan tighter around myself. Why take out a policy on me? We had savings. He was stealing from the company. Brandon and Sarah exchanged a look. It was a heavy look, one that communicated a conversation they didn't want to have with me but knew they must. Mrs. Harper, Brandon said, sitting on the edge of the desk. We need to ask you some difficult questions. Have you experienced any accidents recently? Near misses? Strange incidents where you could have been hurt? I frowned. I don't understand. Think back, Sarah urged. Over the past 6 months. Since the date on this policy. My mind raced backward. My car, I said slowly. The brakes failed about 3 months ago. I was coming down the hill near the grocery store. The pedal just went to the floor. I swerved into a ditch to stop. What did the mechanic say? He said the line looked like it had been cut, but I thought maybe it was just road debris. Trevor said old cars do that. Your car is 3 years old, Brandon noted, writing in his notebook. Anything else? I got food poisoning. Really bad. About 2 months ago. Trevor ordered takeout for us, but he wasn't hungry. I ended up in the hospital for 2 days with severe dehydration. Another look passed between the detectives. What? I demanded, panic rising in my throat. What are you thinking? We think, Brandon said carefully, that your husband may have been planning to kill you. The room tilted. I sat down hard on Trevor's office chair. That's insane. Trevor's a coward and a liar, but he couldn't. The brake line. The food poisoning. The life insurance policy. It's a pattern, Simone, Sarah said gently. We see it more often than you'd think. The spouse wants out of a marriage but doesn't want to lose assets in a divorce. Life insurance pays out more than any settlement. Plus, he has a baby on the way. Babies are expensive. Mistresses are expensive. I felt sick. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. My whole body shook. Trevor hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He hadn't just stolen my money. He had looked at me across the dinner table, asked about my day, and waited for me to die. When I came back, Brandon handed me a glass of water. We need to verify the brake incident. Do you have the invoice? I think so. I dug through the file cabinet. Here. Brandon called the mechanic immediately. He stepped into the hall. When he returned, his face was grim. The mechanic remembers it vividly. He told your husband specifically that the line was cut with a tool. Trevor told him he'd tell you. He never did. He tried to kill me, I whispered. Multiple times. We need to get you out of here, Sarah said. You're not staying in this house alone. Is there somewhere safe you can go? Natalie's, I said. Good. Pack a bag. We're accelerating this investigation. This changes everything. We're bringing him in for questioning today. I packed quickly, throwing clothes into a suitcase with shaking hands. Every room in the house held a new horror now. The kitchen where he'd served me the poisoned food. The garage where he'd tampered with my car. The bedroom where he'd slept beside me, perhaps disappointed that I had woken up that morning. I went back to Natalie's house, where she immediately pulled me into a hug. I told her everything. Oh my God, Simone. You could have died. I know. The reality was settling in like a lead weight. I thought he just didn't love me anymore. I didn't know he wanted me dead. 2 hours later, Detective Mitchell called. We went to the motel where he was staying. He's gone. Gone. My heart hammered against my ribs. His car is in the lot, but he's not there. His phone goes straight to voicemail. His credit cards show no recent activity. He's run. He'll come after me, I said. He knows I found the safe. We have a warrant out. We're watching his mother's house, Candace's apartment, the business. We'll find him. Days passed. I lived in limbo, jumping at every sound, afraid to leave Natalie's house. Then, a week later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello, Simone. It was Trevor. His voice was calm, terrifyingly reasonable. We need to talk, he said. Where are you? I gripped the phone. The police are looking for you. I know. That's why we need to talk. You've made a huge mistake. If you don't drop the charges, drop the divorce, things will get very bad for you. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Back off or you'll regret it. I already know what you're capable of, I said, my voice trembling but loud. You tried to kill me, Trevor. The brakes. The poison. I know. You can't prove that. Actually, I can. The police have everything. It's over. Nothing is over until I say it's over, he hissed. You're my wife. My property. And I don't let go of what's mine. The call ended. I stood in the middle of the room, silence pressing in on my ears. My property. I dialed Detective Mitchell. He just called. We traced the call, Detective Mitchell told me 20 minutes later. He made a mistake. He kept the burner phone on for too long. We have a location. A motel 2 states over. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of Natalie's house sounded like footsteps. I kept seeing Trevor's face. Not the smiling man I married, but the stranger who had looked at me with dead eyes and called me his property. I realized that the man I loved never really existed. He was a character played by a sociopath. The next morning, Brandon called with news. We got him. He's in custody. The arraignment is tomorrow. Relief flooded through me, so intense it almost felt like pain. So, it's over? Not quite. This is just the beginning of the legal process. But he can't hurt you now. He's being held without bail. I attended the arraignment with Jerome. Walking into the courthouse felt like walking into a gladiator arena. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras flashing. Local businessman arrested for attempted murder. The headlines were already out. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of floor wax. I sat in the second row. When they brought Trevor in, my breath caught. He wasn't wearing his Italian suits. He was in an orange jumpsuit, looking thinner, older. His wrists were cuffed. He scanned the room until he found me. The hate in his eyes was chilling. It was a physical force. But I held his gaze. I refused to look away. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the witness. The state requests bail be denied, the prosecutor, Lisa Chin, stated firmly. Mr. Harper is a flight risk and a distinct danger to the victim. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Morrison, agreed. Bail denied. Defendant will remain in custody until trial. As they led him away, Trevor turned back one last time. He didn't speak, but he didn't have to. The promise of vengeance was written in the set of his jaw. The months leading up to the trial were a blur of depositions and therapy. I met with Rachel Stone, Trevor's business partner. She looked wrecked. I had no idea, Rachel told me over coffee, her hands shaking as she held her cup. He used our company to launder money. Fake invoices. Shell corporations. I've spent the last month trying to save the business, but he destroyed everything we built. I believe you, I said. He fooled us all. I'm testifying, Rachel said, her voice hardening. I'm going to show the jury exactly how he stole every dime. Then came the news about Candace. Detective Mitchell called me a week before the trial. Candace Peterson has agreed to testify against Trevor in exchange for immunity. My stomach dropped. Immunity? She gets to walk away. She was involved in the embezzlement, Brandon explained. She helped him fake the invoices. But her testimony is crucial to proving the timeline of the murder plot. She's the one who can confirm he talked about getting rid of you to be with her. So she goes free. She's losing everything. Simone. No job, single mother, reputation ruined. But yes, she avoids prison to help put him away for a long time. I had to accept it. Justice wasn't always perfect. Sometimes it was a trade. The divorce proceedings moved in parallel. Jerome was a shark. He argued that the prenup was void due to fraud. He went after everything. The house, the assets, the hidden offshore accounts we'd uncovered. Trevor's lawyer tried to paint me as a gold digger, but the evidence was overwhelming. Judge Morrison ruled quickly. I got everything. The house, the cars, the remaining savings. But the money didn't fix the hole in my chest. Only the criminal trial could do that. The morning the trial began, I woke up at 5 a.m. I put on a navy blue dress. Simple, serious. Natalie helped me do my hair. You've got this, she said, squeezing my shoulder. Just tell the truth. I'm terrified, I admitted. That's what bravery is. Being terrified and doing it anyway. We walked into the courthouse. The room was packed. Patricia, Trevor's mother, was there in the front row, glaring at me with venom. She still believed her son was innocent, that I was a vindictive shrew framing him. The prosecutor, Lisa Chin, opened with a blistering statement. Trevor Harper is a con artist who decided that divorce was too expensive, so he chose murder instead. I watched Trevor's back. He sat rigid, pretending to take notes. The first few days were technical. Mechanics testified about brake lines. Fire inspectors testified about the furnace tampering. Financial analysts showed the flow of stolen money. It was dry, but damning. Then they called Candace. She waddled to the stand. 8 months pregnant now. She looked exhausted. She avoided looking at Trevor, but she looked briefly at me. Her eyes were filled with shame. "Miss Peterson," Lisa began, "did Trevor Harper ever discuss his wife's safety with you?" "Yes," Candace said, her voice trembling. "About 6 months ago. He said she was having bad luck with her car. He seemed happy about it. And when she got food poisoning, he joked that maybe she'd finally leave him alone so we could be together." The jury murmured. Trevor's lawyer, Richard Foster, objected, but the damage was done. Candace detailed the financial crimes, the fake invoices she typed up because she was in love and thought they were building a future. "I realized too late," she said, weeping, "that he was using me just like he was using her. I was just another account to manage." When she stepped down, the room felt heavy. But I knew the hardest part was yet to come. The prosecution called Simone Harper. I stood up. My legs felt like lead. I walked past Trevor, past his glaring mother, and took the stand. I placed my hand on the Bible. It was time to tell the world what he did to me. "Mrs. Harper, can you describe your marriage to the defendant?" Lisa Chin asked gently. I took a deep breath, gripping the railing of the witness stand. I thought it was good. We were building a life. I worked extra hours to save for the renovations he wanted. We were trying to have a baby. "When did you realize things were not as they seemed?" "When I went to apartment 4B, I said, looking directly at the jury. "When I saw his mistress carrying his child. And then, when I found the life insurance policy." "How did that make you feel? Knowing he had taken out a policy on your life without your knowledge?" "It made me realize that while I was planning our anniversary, he was planning my funeral." The courtroom went silent. Even the reporters stopped typing for a second. Then came the cross-examination. Richard Foster was a bulldog of a man. He stood up, buttoning his expensive suit, smiling a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mrs. Harper, isn't it true that you were unhappy in the marriage? That you were focused on your career?" "I was focused on our future," I countered. "Isn't it true that you discovered the affair and sought revenge? That you're exaggerating these accidents to punish a cheating husband?" "I didn't cut my own brake lines, Mr. Foster. The mechanic confirmed they were cut." "So you say. But you can't prove who cut them, can you? It could have been a vandal. It could have been road debris." "Road debris doesn't use wire cutters," I snapped. "And the food poisoning? Bad takeout happens, Mrs. Harper. Is it a crime to order bad sushi? It is when you don't eat any of it yourself, and you wait 3 hours to call an ambulance while your wife is unconscious on the bathroom floor." Foster hammered at me for 2 hours. He tried to make me look hysterical, bitter, confused. He tried to suggest I forged the insurance signature myself to frame Trevor. It was exhausting. I felt like I was being stripped naked and judged by a room full of strangers. But I held firm. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just kept repeating the facts. When I finally stepped down, I was trembling. Natalie met me during the recess. "You were incredible. He didn't lay a glove on you." The jury deliberated for 2 days. 2 days of pacing in the hallway. 2 days of not eating. 2 days of wondering if a man who tried to kill me would walk free because he wore a nice suit. Finally the call came. "The jury has a verdict." We filed back in. The air in the courtroom was electric. Trevor stood up, looking confident. He probably thought he'd charmed them. "On the count of embezzlement, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the count of identity theft?" "Guilty." "On the count of insurance fraud?" "Guilty." My heart hammered against my ribs. These were the money crimes. But I needed the big one. On the count of attempted murder in the first degree? The foreman, a middle-aged schoolteacher, looked directly at Trevor. Guilty! A sound erupted from the back of the room. Patricia screaming. But I didn't hear her. All I heard was the blood rushing in my ears. He wasn't getting away with it. Judge Morrison wasted no time with sentencing guidelines. Mr. Harper, your behavior was calculating, cruel, and predatory. You are sentenced to 25 years in state prison, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. 25 years. He would be an old man when he got out. As the bailiffs moved to handcuff him, Trevor looked back at me. The arrogance was gone. The anger was gone. There was only shock. He mouthed something to me. I think it was "I love you," or maybe "I'm sorry." It didn't matter. I turned my back on him and walked out of the courtroom. Outside, the press swarmed. Mrs. Harper, how do you feel? I stopped at the bottom of the steps. The sun was shining. The air smelled like autumn leaves and exhaust fumes. It smelled like reality. I feel, I said into the microphones, like I finally got my life back. I thought the verdict would be the end. I thought I would go home, pop a bottle of champagne, and dance around my living room. Instead, 2 days after the trial, I crashed. I woke up and couldn't get out of bed. The adrenaline that had fueled me for months simply vanished, leaving a hollow space where my energy used to be. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, crying for no reason. I wasn't missing Trevor. I was mourning the 5 years I had wasted. I was mourning the trust one had lost in the world. Natalie found me. She came over with soup and forced me to shower. "This is normal," she said, brushing my hair like I was a child. "You've been in a war zone. Now that the shooting stopped, your body is realizing it's wounded." I started therapy. Dr. Harrison helped me understand that I wasn't stupid for believing him. Sociopaths are experts at camouflage. I wasn't weak for falling apart. I was human. Slowly, the color started to come back into the world. I sold the house. Too many bad memories. I bought a condo with big windows and no yard work. I painted the walls bright colors. Teal, mustard, coral. No more of Trevor's preferred beige. 3 months later, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Simone? It's Candace." I froze. "What do you want?" I wanted to tell you. I had the baby. A girl. "Congratulations," I said stiffly. I also wanted to apologize. Properly. Not just for the court. Her voice was soft. Broken. I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking about the kind of woman I want her to be. I can't raise her to be honest if I don't own my garbage. I knew he was married. I told myself it was love, but I knew. I hurt you. And I'm sorry. I sat with that for a moment. I could have told her to go to hell. I could have hung up. But I was tired of carrying the anger. It was heavy, and I wanted to put it down. "Thank you, Candace," I said. He played us both. "You have a hard road ahead as a single mom. Focus on that baby. Be better for her." "I will." "Thank you, Simone." Forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you. Hanging up that phone felt like cutting the last anchor that tied me to the past. I went back to work. I got a promotion. But the numbers on the spreadsheets didn't satisfy me anymore. I wanted to do something that mattered. I attended a gala for a women's shelter and met Monica, a lawyer who had followed my case. "You were brave," she told me. I didn't feel brave. "That's what makes it bravery," she smiled. "We need people like you. Women who have walked through the fire and came out the other side." That night, an idea sparked. I had the financial background. Monica had the legal expertise. What if we combined them? We started a nonprofit called Second Chances. Our mission was to help women leaving abusive or fraudulent relationships navigate the financial and legal nightmare of starting over. We helped them find apartments, secure bank accounts, and find lawyers who wouldn't charge them a fortune. The work was exhausting, but for the first time in years, I went to sleep feeling clean. I wasn't building a lie. I was building a raft for other drowning women. 1 year later, I stood in the new office of Second Chances. It smelled of fresh paint and coffee. We had helped 50 women in our first year. 50 women who had come to us broken and left with a plan. There was Taylor, a young girl whose boyfriend had controlled every penny she earned. We helped her open her own account and find a safe apartment. Last week, she sent me a photo of her graduation cap. She was going to nursing school. There was Maria, who had been married to a man like Trevor for 20 years. We helped her uncover his hidden assets during the divorce. She was now traveling in Italy, living her best life. "You ready for the open house?" Monica asked, walking in with a tray of pastries. "Ready as I'll ever be." The community showed up. Donors, friends, survivors. Even Rachel Stone came, writing a large check from the company she had successfully rebuilt. "He asked for parole," Rachel whispered to me near the punch bowl. "Did you hear?" "I did," I said, sipping my drink. "I wrote a letter to the board." "Denied." "Good." She clinked her glass against mine. "To freedom. To freedom." That evening, after the guests had left, I went out to the balcony of my condo. My boyfriend, Jordan, was inside making dinner. He was a teacher. Kind, patient, and terrible at lying. He knew my history, and he respected my scars. He didn't try to fix me. He just held my hand while I fixed myself. I looked out at the city lights. Somewhere, miles away in a concrete cell, Trevor was waking up to a steel toilet and a barred window. He had wanted everything: the wife, the mistress, the money, the life insurance. He had been so greedy that he lost it all. Natalie joined me on the balcony, handing me a glass of wine. "Thinking about him?" "Not really," I smiled. "I'm thinking about how good the pasta smells." "You've come a long way, Simone." "I have. People always say living well is the best revenge." They're right. I could have spent my life bitter, checking his prison status, hating Candace, hating men. But that would have meant Trevor still owned a piece of me. Now, he owned nothing. I had my name back. I had my money back. I had my self-respect back. I turned away from the railing, away from the dark city and the memories of apartment 4B. I turned toward the warm light of my living room, where Jordan was laughing at something on the TV and the smell of garlic bread filled the air. "Coming in?" Jordan called out. "Yeah," I said, sliding the glass door shut behind me, locking out the cold. "I'm coming home." The past was a story I told to help others. The future was mine to write. And for the first time in a long time, I couldn't wait to see what happened next.